Hello and good evening to all the dignitaries. I am Darshika Agrawal, a CA final student from Mirzapur. First of all, I want to pay my hearty thanks that I have been given such a wonderful opportunity to present my views. I am here to present a topic which has great impact on the taxation and economy of our country. Yes, it is taxation of capital gains and issues thereunder. As we all know that income tax has 5 heads of income, but the most wide and vital head of income is capital gains. It is charged by section 45, subsection 1. It depicts that any profits or gains arising from transfer of a capital asset effected in the previous year shall be taxable in the income tax under the head capital gains in the previous year in which transfer took place. There are two types of capital gains based on the period of holding of the asset. If an assessee holds a capital asset for 36 months or less, it is termed as short-term capital asset. In either case, it is termed as long-term capital asset. But there are certain exceptions in which the period of holding should be 12 months or less to qualify as a short-term capital asset. The examples of these assets are zero coupon bond, units of UTI, mutual fund, shares held in a company, or any securities listed on recognized stock exchange. Now, it is very important to understand what is a capital asset. Section 2, subsection 14 of the Act depicts that property of any kind held by an assessee, whether or not connected with his business or profession, is a capital asset. However, it does not include consumable stores, stock in trades or raw materials, personal effects with certain exceptions, gold deposit bonds and agricultural land in India. However, agricultural land in India has been excluded from the definition of capital asset, but it is with certain exceptions with regard to yearly distance from the local limits of municipality and population of area. What is transfer? As per section 2, subsection 47, transfer includes sale, exchange or relinquishment of assets, extinguishments of any rights therein, compulsory acquisition under any law, conversion of any asset into stock in trade, any transaction allowing of possession of any immovable property, and any transaction having effect of transferring. Maturity of zero coupon bond is also included in the definition of transfer. There are some exceptions also to the charging section. Subsection 1A says that capital gains arising on insurance claim on damage or destruction of asset shall be taxable in the year of receipt of claim from the insurance company. Further, subsection 2 says that capital gains arising on conversion of capital asset into stock in trade shall be taxable in the year in which stock in trade is sold. Further, subsection 5 says that in case of capital gains arising on transfer by way of compulsory acquisition of asset, it must be taxable in the year in which compensation is first received by the assessee. There are other dealing provisions to the charging sections also. Subsection 2A of section 45 says that in case of transfer by the depository or participant of any beneficial interest in respect of security, gains thereon shall be taxable in the hands of owner and cost of acquisition and period of holding shall be determined on FIFO method. Whereas subsection 3 says that in case of transfer of a capital asset by a partner or member to a firm or AOP or BOI, the FMV the full value of consideration shall be determined what is the value of asset in the books of accounts. Further, subsection 4 says that in case of transfer of a capital asset by way of distribution or dissolution of a firm or AOP or BOI or otherwise, the FMV must be considered as the full value of consideration. Now, coming to the most important perspective, that is method of computation of capital gains. It is covered under section 48. To compute capital gains, sales consideration received or accruing due to transfer shall be reduced by expenditure incurred wholly and exclusively for such transfer. Further, cost of acquisition and cost of improvement to the asset must be reduced from it to arrive at capital gains. Here, Section 55 is very necessary to discuss, which describes that if an asset has been bought before 1st April 1981 or acquired before 1st April 1981, then fair market value on 1st April 1981 must be taken as the cost of acquisition of the asset. There are some provisos also to Section 48. First proviso says that in case of transfer of shares or debentures in an Indian company by a non-resident, cost and sales value must be converted into foreign currency at the average of telegraphic transfer buying and telegraphic transfer selling rate, and after the computation of capital gains, that capital gain must be converted into Indian currency by applying telegraphic transfer buying rate. Second provision to Section 48, which is very important. It determines that cost of acquisition and cost of improvement must be indexed according to the cost inflation index of the year of transfer to the cost inflation index of the year of purchase in the case of long-term capital asset. However, second proviso does not apply where first proviso applies. Third proviso says that second proviso will not apply in case of transfer of bonds and debentures. And fifth proviso says that security transaction tax is not allowed on deduction in computing capital gains. Now, coming to the taxation of short-term capital gains. As per Section 111A, in certain cases where an SSE, including foreign institutional investors and non-residents, gains from a transfer of a short-term capital asset being an equity share in a company or a unit of an equity-oriented fund, and this transaction of sale has been entered into on or after 1st October 2004. And this transaction is also chargeable to securities transaction tax. Tax on this transaction shall be levied at the rate of 15% and on the balance total income of the SSE as per the normal rates applicable to SSE. However, for an individual or HUF resident in India, where total income minus short-term capital gain is less than basic exemption limit, then tax shall be levied at the rate of 15% on STCG reduced by the basic exemption limit not availed of. In other cases, tax will be applicable at the normal rates applicable to SSE on short-term capital gains. Now, coming to the taxation of long-term capital gains, which is covered under Section 112. In this section, for a resident SSE or a domestic company, long-term capital gain will be charged at the rate of 20% and balance total income as per the rates applicable to SSE. The basic exemption limit not availed of shall be benefited to the individual or HUF resident in India in case total income minus long-term capital gain is less than basic exemption limit. For a non-resident SSE or a foreign company, there is a special provision where LTCG has been calculated on unlisted securities, computed without giving effect to first and second proviso to Section 48. This long-term capital gain will be taxable at the rate of 10%. There are some provisions also to Section 112. Tax on capital gains being long-term from listed securities, units or zero coupon bonds shall be lower at the rate of 20% with the benefit of indexation or at the rate of 10% without giving benefit of indexation. As per Section 47, there are certain transactions also which are not regarded as transfer. Section 49, subsection 1 says that in case of some clauses of Section 47, cost must be considered with reference to the cost of previous owner and cost of improvement to the previous owner and the SSE. And Section 2, subsection 42A says that period of holding must include the period for which the asset was held by the previous owner. And these clauses are applied in various sections of various clauses of 47, such as gifts, will, irrevocable trust, amalgamation, conversion, succession of holding to subsidiary, subsidiary to holding, etc. There are some special provisions also. As per Section 50C, in case of land or building, if stamp duty value is more than sales consideration, then stamp duty value must be considered as the full value of consideration. But when fair market value is determined by valuation officer, then fair market value or stamp duty value, whichever will be less, shall be deemed as full value of consideration. However, if fair market value is less than sales consideration, then obviously the sales consideration will be full value of consideration. There are some, as per section 50D, if the net consideration is not determinable in case of any immovable property, then FMV must be determined as the full value of consideration. As per section 51, in case of forfeiture of any advance money, it must be reduced from the cost of acquisition of the asset. And as per section 50B, in case of slum sale, that is where all the entire assets are transferred as an undertaking, the capital gain is calculated by net sales consideration reduced by the net worth of the undertaking. There are certain exemptions also in Income Tax Act, such as in case of transfer of residential house, land used for agricultural purposes and so on. These all exemptions have been provided under various sections of 54, but there are certain conditions such as construction or purchase of a new asset or excess amount to be deposited in the capital gains account scheme. Now, coming to the economic issues in capital gains taxation. Inflation is a very important economic issue regarding capital gains taxation. Taxing nominal gains raises the effective tax rates on real capital gains and impose a tax on real economic losses. Several studies have shown that a large percentage of reported capital gains affect the rates of inflation. Further, from a standpoint of economic accretion, the deferral of capital gains tax until realization reduces the effective tax rate, reduces the present value of tax, and this effective tax rate is used to be less than the statutory tax rate. Lock-in effect is also a very important and significant economic issue. Where an investor is induced to hold an appreciated property due to high capital gains tax, it is called locked in. Lock-in effects impose efficiency losses. In some cases, investors are also induced to sell a appreciated property by incurring unnecessary transaction cost to avoid capital gains taxes. Capital gain in the capital gains taxation, there is savings and investment effects also, which creates an issue. Due to income conversion is also an issue. Due to differential tax rates, sometimes investors are induced to convert their ordinary income into the capital gains taxed at a lower rate. For example, executive compensation is converted from salaries to capital gains. There is a very limelighting case in the history of capital gains, and that is Vodafone International Holdings BV versus Union of India. In this case, a foreign company, Vodafone International Holding, has purchased 100% shares of CGP Mauritius, CGP Investments Limited, from Hutchison Telecommunication International Limited, and that CGP Investment Limited has a controlling interest in the Indian company Hutchison SR Limited. In this case, Bombay High Court has held that since the income was deemed to accrue or arise in India, the Hutchison Group shall be taxable in the hands of India. There are other issues also regarding capital gains taxation, such as the tax consequence if entire business is transferred as an undertaking consisting both depreciable and non-depreciable asset. In this case, entire capital gain is treated as long-term capital gain as per the decision of CIT versus Raka Food Products. Since it is the decision that if all the assets are depreciable assets, then it can be considered as a short-term capital asset. Further issue is that how to compute capital gain on the shares received by the partner on the basis of revalued net worth of the firm. There will be no capital gain as per the decision of CIT versus Kunnam Kukulam Mill Board. There is another issue regarding when existing shareholders renounce their right in the having right shares, then how to compute capital gains. There will be no capital gains as per the decision of CIT versus Kode Distilleries Limited, since the court says, Apex Court says, that actually the existing shareholders have not availed of their right. Now, at last I want to say that taxation of capital gain is a contextual taxation concept with practically applicable and situational provisions providing justice to each and every part of society. With the time changes, there are necessary amendments, circulars and notifications which are provided by Income Tax Department, inculcating day to day the development and changes in the society and the atmosphere. Only requirement is that we must thoroughly analyze the transaction and we must comprehensively understand the situation of transfer. Thank you. Jai Hind.